Joining us now for her take on the convention and how the lessons learned today could be applied to the rest of the 2020 race is Amber Athey, the Washington editor at the Spectator. So Amber, we've now seen 3 full days. Today's wrapping it all up, night 4. What has been your real takeaways from what we've seen so far during the Democratic convention?
What I've seen is a Democratic Party that still has been unable to come up with a real central message and really any tangible policy proposals. Basically, over the past 3 days, they've positioned themselves again as an anti-Trump party and not a pro-anything party. They failed to talk at all really about health care or what the party's plan for health care is, which is an increasingly silly thing to do, considering that was part of the reason that they won the 2018 midterms. You would think that a party that intends on winning the 2020 election would double down on the thing that made them successful in the past. Instead, they've refused to grapple with the division in the party of the progressives who want single payer and, of course, the moderates who prefer a public option or maybe even just slight reforms to Obamacare. And so you have a convention that really just is confusing. You see during the day these really hardcore left-wing woke panels, and then at night you see the old establishment talking about the same policies that the party has been pushing for the past 10 years. So I walk away from this convention really just not having any greater sense of what it is that this party's.
Yeah, no, I think you're exactly right. And I think, too, when we look at the Democratic Party, it seems like one party that is trying to appeal to 2 separate parties. And I think you're exactly right to bring up that the events during the day are very different than the events at night. And I also think it's worth pointing out, too, that last night, Hillary Clinton's speech was right before that 10 o'clock hour where all the other broadcast networks take it. So most people weren't seeing Hillary Clinton. They saw President Obama's speech, and then they saw Kamala Harris's speech. So I think it's very telling what the DNC wants viewers to see. They don't want them to see the progressive part. They don't want them to see Hillary Clinton, but they do want them to see the more moderate messaging, or the people who are, for example, President Obama was very bleak, very dark during his speech, whereas Kamala Harris kind of was the optimistic one. So I think there's different messaging that's going on. But then on the Republican side of the aisle, it seems like 90%, whatever the number is right now as far as approval rating for President Trump within the party, there is a little bit more unity behind that candidate. What can the Republican Party learn from what they've seen so far in the Democratic convention?
I think what they can learn is that it's important to have a set of policies that you're actually running on and showing people what you're going to do for them, not just who you're against. And it was really interesting to watch the Democrats last night with Obama and Hillary Clinton, just as always, talking more about how Trump is being a danger to democracy and how he's allegedly going to steal the election again, which was a message that completely failed in 2016. Whereas Trump was able to win in 2016 by talking about economic insecurity and immigration and trade policies. If he's able to put together a coherent message like that in 2020, then that is certainly the path to a second term for him.
And so when we look at what the president has to do between now and November, I think that you're right. I think that really when it comes down to messaging, it has to be clear. And I think it's worth noting that the Biden campaign is essentially bringing up the slogan that is basically "Make America Great Again," but different. I think it's "Build Back Better" is what they're doing, and kind of using their different policies that the president will say is plagiarized from his economic policies. So is there a clear consensus of what a winning argument is? Do these 2 parties know that their economic argument is the winning one?
Yeah, it's a really good point that Joe Biden really took a lot of his messaging on economics from things that Trump ran on in 2016. And remember, he specifically used the phrase "buy American" just a couple of weeks ago when talking about reshoring manufacturing jobs, which was something that Trump was talking about in the Oval Office and even apparently had an executive order prepared to sign that he never did. And that was specifically in regards to reshoring the pharmaceutical industry. So I think that Trump is right to say it as a little bit of plagiarism, but at the same time, a lot of the things that Trump has promised to do on that front have not been accomplished yet. So it's really quite a smart strategy for Biden to try to take some of that away, especially considering it seems like the base that both parties are trying to draw from is really this blue collar manufacturing coalition across the Midwest and in some of these swing states.
I think you're right. And I think that plays exactly into the playbook for both of these candidates. They both think that they can make the pitch to the American electorate that coming out of this coronavirus pandemic, this unprecedented crisis, they are the one to build back this economy. I think that's really what this the whole election is going to be about. I know it's going to be the president's handling of the coronavirus, Joe Biden's past as a politician, but I think really when it comes down to it, the issue on voters' minds will be who do they trust to build back this economy coming out of this pandemic. And I think if we're seeing this play out right now, but it's only going to get a little bit more hostile between now and November. But Amber Athey, I appreciate you coming on tonight, breaking down not only the DNC and the RNC, but where we lie in this presidential election. Thank you.